Okay, good afternoon. It's Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. This is the Historic Preservation Board meeting. Called meeting to order. Citizens may speak on items listed on the agenda. A request to speak card should be completed and returned to the city clerk upon arrival prior to the board reaching the public comment section of the agenda. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise required by law. Comments related to the public hearings listed below will be heard when the specific hearing starts. Number 3, items for individual consideration. A, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the March 1st, 2022 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve March 22 meeting minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, then the minutes are accepted as written. Moving on to item B, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to paint and add windows to the upper story of 331 West Main. Case number 2022-023H. Ms. Dow?
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning or afternoon.
Is your microphone on?
I bet it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Okay. So we have Mr. Don Day with us, and he has a couple of the cases on the agenda today. So there's a lot of activity going on in downtown Denison, and we would like to first look at 331 West Main, which is the Independent Bank building. And that's the front of it as it exists, the side of it, I would say minus the Independent Bank signage that has been removed. And that's what it looks like now. Later on in the presentation, you'll see what it looked like when it was Lily's department store a few years back. This is what Mr. Day is proposing, with 3 windows in the front on the upper story and 2 on the side. And he can detail that information. That's really the changes here. And then that would be the look of the windows that he is proposing. These are the paint colors that he is requesting. And this is some information that was received from our Texas Main Street architect. And this was included because before Mr. Day purchased the building, we had visited with the Texas Main Street architect, and he gave us some information on how the upper story windows could be added. My concern was that, is it appropriate? And so the Main Street architect felt like that it was appropriate. And this was just a drawing that they did and some interior shots. This is the Lily's building, what it used to look like. And you can see the top of the building did not have windows, but it had display windows down below, which have been changed. My favorite thing is the S&H green stamps. That's not part of this case, though.
I have a couple of books for this, but I don't know what happened to them.
So as we said, he's proposing the 5 windows and then also paint. And let's see.
This is one of the Maze design facades that's on there now, correct?
You know, I'm not familiar. It was in your file, but
Donna, I think there were like subsequent
Right.
changes to the facade, and one of them was Donna May.
It's been
Okay.
through so many iterations that it's not even recognizable.
Okay. So I would like to invite Mr. Day to speak to the case. If
Certainly.
Donna, you did say that it's been through the architectural committee.
it has been through the Texas Main Street architect for recommendation on how upper story windows could be incorporated into the design.
Okay.
And that full report was in your. I will show them. These are his paint colors. This will be the muted red, and this will be the whitewash.
Thank you. Mr. Davis, state your name, please.
Yes, my name is Don Day, and I live at 110 East Louisiana Street, McKinney, Texas. And we are renovating the building now, doing demolition on the inside. We intend to put a full-service restaurant there. We will take out the second floor in the front of the building where the fine dining is so that we have a two-story element. And then in the back of the building where the lounge is, so again, we will have a two-story element. In the center of the building will be the kitchen, bathrooms, elevators. And then on the second floor, we're putting a special events room that will seat about 100 people. The windows on the front of the building, I think, enhances the building, but quite frankly, from my perspective, it's not real important. On the side, though, it's real important because on the second floor, there is no natural light into that second floor. So I really need them on into the special events room. The front of the building, it gives us more light into our dining area, so it helps, but it's not critical. Paint colors, the building needs to be painted. Anytime you make the building more beautiful, you enhance the value, you enhance all of downtown. So I request your approval. And I'll answer any questions.
Well, I might add that I lived on Main Street for several years in the 404 building. And I used to look out those windows and I'd see the building down there and the blank facade on it just didn't seem right.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're doing something like that to it.
Thank you.
Any
Thank
other
you for
que-
your investment in our Main Street.
Any other questions or comments?
Why only two windows? Just curious.
Yeah, we looked at two, we looked at three. There's a cost associated with cutting them in, and we felt like two would handle what we needed to do. If y'all want to approve three, I'll put in three.
Any other questions?
I very much like the data that was provided.
Absolutely.
We're happy to have you here, sir, and looking forward to your restaurant being open.
Thank you. We are to about September, October. So,
Great, thank you, sir.
George, if I might, I would like to find out where the paint will be applied, just so we know where,
all right. If you go back to okay, the first floor, which is white now, where you have the wood detail, will be the
Whitewash.
white color. Then above, the stucco everywhere, it's a combination of stucco and precast, will be this color.
So essentially the facade that has no windows now will be all that color? The whole facade will be that rust color?
If I remember, as you come down the side street, beneath the awning are some wood wherever the wood columns are will be white. The structural precast will be the red.
So that means the entire facade on which there are no windows now will be the rust color?
No.
Is that what-
There are some
I'm
colors.
sorry, excuse me?
There are some columns on Burnett Street. Those will be white. Everything else is red.
so aside from these columns right
They're
there and
here.
right there,
Yeah.
this and this will be red.
Yeah.
Okay, so on Burnett, the columns here and the columns here will be white. And this and this will be red.
Exactly what I was saying, the entire facade.
then you'll have this black line at the edge of the awning. There's an awning that goes all the way around. It will have a black edge to it.
And we will see the same thing on the Main Street facade?
Yes,
Red up here, and then the columns will be white.
yes.
So where it's two-tone now in the columns, that black will go away, that will all be the whitewash.
Down here, it's got black inset.
That will go away. It will all be white.
Whitewash, okay.
Yes.
I just wanted us to get a clear picture so there wouldn't be any glaring surprises.
Right, I
Appreciate it,
understand.
thank you.
I have one last question. That granite piece that's on that side, what's your plans for that? Are you gonna put a window in that? Are you gonna leave that granite or marble or whatever that is?
To be honest with you, we haven't gotten that far.
Okay. Okay. I'm just curious. I
It,
never knew what
it's
that was.
boarded up from the inside. I think there's granite on the outside.
Okay.
And as I said, we haven't done, I can put a window there, or we can leave the granite.
I never knew what that was. Is it a drive-up window? Any?
I assume it was a window at one time and they just pushed it up, so.
Perhaps.
Thanks,
Thank you,
y'all.
Mr. Day.
Thank you, Mr. Day.
Okay, any more discussion or questions?
I'm concerned about the expanse of the darker color, Mr. Day. We've had some issues with other buildings in town where a color that might have more traditionally been used as a trim color, in fact, ended up being the entire building. And we've gotten some pushback from that, as has the council, for giant expanses of really dark colors. So my question would be, how locked in are you to a color that's that dark over that much wall?
I'm not locked into it. But as I look at it, we should paint under the awning everywhere the white color. I want a beautiful building, and I'm sure you do too. And sometimes when you look at colors, it's hard to figure out what looks best. But I'm not locked into it. I would say this: if we paint it red and it doesn't look good, I'll come back to you and say we're going to do something else. But that would be, I would say, the two options. Red everywhere, or everywhere there's an awning, underneath the awning, we should paint white. The same white color that we're proposing.
I'm looking at the mock-up that was done by the Historic Commission.
Yeah.
And to me, I have to agree with my board member here. Having the building primarily white with some additional dark coloring as accents is probably going to look better. That's just my feeling, but as you said, if it doesn't look good, you may be coming back to us and saying, well, we may want to repaint it. But I'd like to get it right the first time.
Is this the same or similar color, Donna, as what Vintage Mercantile and Hanging Tea? Is that the same?
That's what I was
basic
thinking.
colors?
Don't think so.
No?
No?
I don't think it is. Maybe.
And the rendering we have
That's
from the
close.
state basically bears no resemblance to what we're talking about as a finished product. So using that, to my mind, as an aesthetic reference is irrelevant. You still, the expanse, it's all windows around the bottom, is considerably different visually than if it were all rust colored.
As a comment, there's some problem shutting all of those windows that they're showing in on the side. We have to put a fire riser in. The fire marshal requires a sprinkler. So in the very front corner where there are two columns and a door, that corner of the building becomes a fire riser room. So I have to leave that. And then as you go back, the structure in that building is odd. I think that building was a multi-story building at one time. And the structure for the old, bigger, larger building is still in there. And so we're trying to figure out what we can take out and what we can't. I've had a structural engineer up here about 3 times trying to figure that out. But on the sidewall, there are structural elements that would stop us from putting in that many windows. We should put some. Now, obviously, we should, where the grant is, we should put a window there easily. That's not hard. To do what they're showing here would be difficult, and I couldn't get all of those windows.
Yesterday, I wanted to show them, this is what I'm showing them. So this is the buildings that she was asking about. So it looks similar. There's some accents that are added in, so it's not just the solid.
Yeah. I'm not sure that's going to be a problem, because Vintage Mercantile is down in the middle of the block, and the buildings right alongside of this are white or light green. So I don't think that it's going to look that bad.
I think also you have the windows that he's gonna put in, that you won't see the solid, all one red, as well as you look at some other buildings.
And the buildings that you point out, in fact, that expanse of rust color is broken by many windows and detail. It is not a big expanse of rust. And we're only talking about a couple of windows and a doorway on that long wall. I will defer to my peers, but it is disquieting.
You're referring to the Burnett side?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But I will defer to your judgment.
I'm not making the decision.
I will defer to your judgment.
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to approve
I second.
colors.
Oops, sorry.
You're fine.
So I have a second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the request is approved. Thank you. Okay, item C, receive report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to modify the facade at 318 West Main Street, item 2022-0148. Ms. Dow?
And this building is also owned by Mr. Day, and he purchased it midstream. So you had a case that came before you, and they asked if they could remove the covering, and that was done. And so now it is, this is what it looked like in its historic state, the former J.C. Penney building. And then that's what it looks like now with the Tyvek on it. And Mr. Day is preparing to add windows in there. They've been drawn out, how he proposes to format those. And there's his rendering, the front elevation. And he's has the Noir or black and Villa gray colors that he plans to use, and you can see the paint scheme on there. And then the windows down below, the storefront windows would remain the same, and below them he's asked to apply black granite. And there's your colors and the accent. And then there's the layout of the building. Let's see.
Can I see the original picture of the building again? Okay, thank you.
So I would recommend that Mr. Day speak to what he has planned for the building.
Mr. Day, you have the floor.
Again, my name is Don Day, 110 East Louisiana, McKinney. What you see there is what we would like to do. Right now, it's ugly, and we want it to not be ugly. And so with the windows band that we put on the mezzanine level is reminiscent of what was there originally. It looks very similar to what the JCPenney had. We would then repair the stucco everywhere, paint the trim black, and the gray color would be the wall color. And then under the storefront, there's currently a faded green tile. We would like to cover that with the black granite to match the rest of the granite. We believe it would look much more attractive with black granite than it does now. We're not proposing to do any work on the side at this time, just the front.
We're not planning, tell me again, Mr. Day, what you just said. I think it might be a question that I have. On the side of the building,
There are plans for the side of the building, but you're already getting ready to redo the park. As a part of the park, we have leased this building to the Land and Winery. They're going to be asking to put a window in the side, but it all depends on how the park comes out. So at the moment, we're not proposing anything on the side until we know what the park is doing, then we'll come back.
Right.
So all we're asking for now, the front doesn't look good, so we want to get that done soon, and then we'll worry about the side later on.
Would it be possible to, add the new windows on the second floor that match the pattern of the original windows? Instead of just having a solid row of windows across there?
We'd have to go back to the picture.
Donna, there we are.
I think there are 3 of them in the band, and yes, we should do that. Yes, right now, that shows 5 windows. We should match those 5 windows without difficulty.
You can or cannot?
Can, yes.
Can. I think that would look a lot better. And since we're trying to preserve the building, I'd like it to look as much like the original as possible.
That's fine. I just removed some of the windows we're showing and replaced it with structural panel in between the windows, so it's not hard.
Okay. Donna, when we make a motion, do we need to stipulate that? Okay.
do we need to speak as well to covering up the tile being an existing element and covering it with a new material? Obviously, you have the reversing it potential. And I understand aesthetically how you would prefer that it be black granite to match your noir trim, but we do have an extant feature from an earlier building.
Yes, ma'am, but a rusty bucket is still a rusty bucket, and that's a rusty bucket. It does not look good. That's why I'm requesting the change. If you deny it, okay, I'll live with that. But it will look better with the granite.
I've looked at the tile down there, and it looks like there are 2 different installations of tile.
Yes.
So at some point in the past, there was tile added.
At one
Right.
place, at that column.
Yeah, they're different colors.
Let's see, Donna. Let's see what you're saying, Joe.
There is that one piece that was replaced, we looked at it when we left the meeting last time, of the darker green. I can see that that's not the original tile. I can see that.
Would it offend you if you tried to retain that green tile?
It will not offend me. I just think it will be less attractive.
I understand what you're trying to do, but, we're trying to see that elements of the original building remain, so, and we would love to see you take care of that ASAP.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
The tiles that Donna was showing,
Is that going to look bad to have two different types of the green tile?
Well,
Because
that is an issue.
it's at both columns.
That is an issue.
It's at both columns and then
But the columns at each
at
end,
each end.
but
Sets
the
them
tile in between are the same color.
off. And then the other non-conforming is the tile that is actually on the
On the floor.
concrete, which is black and kind of that red again. So you've got a whole lot of different tiles going on there.
Did you have any plans for the flooring outside the building on the entrance?
No, at this moment, we have not planned on changing that.
Okay.
And Mr. Day, I acknowledge, considering the linear, kind of blank, modern view of the building, the black granite would look very good. I acknowledge that, but at the same time, I have to advocate for surfaces that were original to the building. And once again, I'll defer to my peers
No,
on that.
you're correct.
I just think the mismatch of all the different tiles does not look good.
So aesthetically, you would say, let's go with what's aesthetic.
Yes.
We do still have the potential for reversal, correct, Ms. Dow?
If it's placed over it, not
And
removing.
not removing.
It would go
And
over it,
that's-
yes, ma'am, it would go over it, not, we would not remove what's there.
Just-
That was a thought that I have, and it's half-baked. I wonder if the opportunity is to go ahead and do everything but the tile, and then at that point, if it doesn't look right, then bring it forward to change it. Is that something that would be acceptable or not?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said. You mean use a different tile?
He's asking if, leaving the tile in place would be possible while you repaired the rest of the building. And then if it doesn't look right, come back and get approval to put the granite on it.
Yes, yes, we can do that. That's not an issue.
All right. How's that sound, madam?
That sounds great to me. Sounds great to me. Thank you for being
Well,
so accommodating.
well, you're most welcome. And realize, when the winery goes in, they're going to come back for the side. It would be very easy at that time to readdress the front tile at that time.
Understand, and, we appreciate your patience on that because the city doesn't yet know how that park area is going to be used, so
Right.
it's important to be left alone for now.
Well,
So make a motion to approve with the exception of the tile, hopefully, Fanchona, we can get this right.
And the windows.
And the windows to be of the design of the original building, as well as the opportunity to come back and change the tiles to a different color. That's a mouthful. How'd we do?
I think that's,
Got it?
I think that covers it,
Except the original windows in there and the tile.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to make sure, you said with the exception of the windows, and you want the windows to be patterned like
Yes.
this?
Yes,
So
Correct.
you want to approve that?
yes.
As long as Stanchion knows what it is, I think.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, then the motion's carried. Thanks, sir.
thank you.
All right. Item D, receive report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to add signage at 407 West Main Street, item 2022-024H. Ms. Dow.
This is one of three buildings, three neighboring buildings that were done. They had a mansard roof awning over them, and since it has been painted with the same background, this is the original the application after they removed the awning and drew that up, but he had to come back for the signage itself. And you can see the 11 by 4 space in there that was allowed for signage. And what they're proposing is to paint this on in that space. I'll let him describe what techniques will be used, but it's a reddish rust color and black and white. I think we'll leave it there. And David Spindle is here to address that.
Mr. Spindle, you have the floor. State your name and the address of the building.
David Spindle, 1307 South Lang, Denison. If you look at this, that color on the background is not the color it's going to be. It's the mocha that's there. She's going to paint it in that 11 by 14 area. It'll be centered above the awning that's going on that was approved up to that stone ledge that's left there unpainted. Again, the background will be that. The letters will be outlined in the red, the decadent red that's on the door, face only on that building, and then the white, and then you can see the other colors. The only thing really, that background's not the right color of the photo.
Did you supply samples of the colors?
Last time I did of the colors, I didn't do the black and the white, but last time we approved the mochas, the Mediterranean, had to look in the decadent red is what was on there.
So it was approved for the building and the signage would
Right.
Right, we're just matching the sign, using the same colors other than the black, which, you know, I know there's different colors of black, I know there's different colors of white, but, you know, my eyes with white, I can tell. I learned many years ago because my father-in-law was a painter. When I asked him to paint something white, he said, "What color white?" But it's going to be a softer white. It's not going to be a bright white.
I was very relieved when I saw the brick detail at the top of the walls.
Right.
There was not a whole lot of damage done other than the fancy upper elevation is missing.
Yeah, the one that's over the store next to it had a couple broken bricks, but the other, and they had no idea. The contractor called me, said, "I don't think we want to put that cap just like it is on the dance studio." They had to replace with the roof. So I came down, and the way he's had to do that is it did have to go with the brick a little bit because of obviously it's a weather shield like for the roof, because that connects into the roof, and they had to cut the existing metal up there on a straight line right across that top and overlap this, for weather protection, keep water from getting into the roof area.
I noticed that there's a line of stone about 2 feet down from the top, and on the shoe repair store, it was unpainted.
Right,
The store next door, it's painted.
right.
How are you gonna handle that?
You're talking about the one that, we're not doing anything to Wayne's. We're not painting that, we're leaving it just the color it is. Yeah, I know what they're talking about. Looks like a limestone deal.
It's natural limestone.
It's natural limestone, so we're not touching it. We're not painting it, we're not doing anything to it.
Okay.
You know, what's painted, what you've seen being painted out there now, the plaster, is that, and it carries all the way down to the entrance, the door, and again, this was all approved as the red.
Refresh my memory, are you painting the brick in that building or no?
There's really no brick. If I remember right, down underneath the deal is metal.
Up at the top, there's some brick.
No, we're not going above that. What's existing painted is all that's being painted. We're not doing anything from that stone ledge to that limestone up to the top. Nothing that's being touched as far as paint goes.
Any questions? Discussion? Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve the signage for Wayne's Shoe Repair and Bootery.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, the motion's carried.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Item E, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a request to add vinyl signage at 419 West Main. Item number 2022-027H. Ms. Dow?
So as you indicated, she would like to add vinyl on her, above her door on the storefront, as shown there. And she also has a sign for Totally Addicted at her current location on Fannin, there at the top of the building, and she would like to place that on this storefront. And I don't see the applicant here. She wasn't able to make it.
Where is the sign going to be placed? 'Cause there's
I
three-
cannot answer that,
there's
I'm
three
sorry.
windows on the second floor.
Not a center point?
Pardon?
Not a center point?
No. And I don't know if it's feasible to mount that above the center window or not.
Be awful high.
Yeah. I'm not against her bringing her sign back, but have to consider the overall appearance of the building.
I agree with Mr. Mason. The new signage, the vinyl is absolutely fine, look great, but I would like to know more about the proposed placement of the sign being moved over, because it looks to me like it's gonna be pretty awkward. So, what's your pleasure? Shall we approve the vinyl signage and hold off on moving the other?
So just to note, the agenda does say on the request to add vinyl signage at 419 West Main, it didn't note anything about anything being like installed on the building.
Exactly.
So I think that this case could probably be approved as is, and then they can bring
Come
that
back
sign
to the
back.
other?
Yeah.
Perfect.
That'll work.
I move approval of the vinyl signage on 419 West Main.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, the motion is carried. Thank you. All right, moving along. Item F. Receive report, hold a discussion and take action on a request to add signage to 422 West Main. Item is 2022-028H. Ms. Dow.
This is at the Hay Sugar location, and you can see their existing signage that is between the two buildings of sorts. And then the proposal is to add signage over the transoms and also vinyl over the windows. And that's a good look of all the vinyl that's being requested and what it will say. And then that's a look of the aluminum sign. And we do have the applicant here. Patrick Melvin is here to speak on the case.
State your name and the address of the building, please.
Patrick Melvin, 422 West Main Street. And thanks for allowing the first sign, but the problem is it doesn't get everybody at night when it lights up. We did win an award for the sign, so we're really proud of that. But we have a lot of people coming in the last 2 or 3 weeks saying, we didn't even know you were here, because they're not seeing our sign up on the building. And we've been advertising, we've been on the radio, we've been sponsoring a bunch of different events, and we just need some help with that sign in the front. My own wife keeps telling me, I drive by there and I don't really see the information. And what we have on the windows right now is hand painted, which I don't really like in the first place. I would like to put that logo with the vinyl and hours and details also. We love we're here. You guys have been great. The city's great. And I think we're going to be the leader of the pack of all of our hay sugars when we get through. So,
We're happy to have you here.
well, thank you.
I'm not happy about that sign over the windows, however.
Okay,
Thank you.
Can't go with that.
No,
And in
what-
fact, do not cover up traditional or original features. Once again, I have to advocate for the building.
right.
That's kind of my feeling as well. You're gonna be covering up a significant piece of the architecture in that building, and would rather not see that happen. But then I don't know what the solution is to the issue that you have.
Could we possibly have it temporary? Because as I understand, they're gonna tear up the street at some time, and we're gonna have to put a sign on the back in the alley identifying where our store is.
The alleys, I don't think is as big a problem as this, and yeah, they are gonna tear up the street. I'm kind of thinking that, you've seen Cafe Blackbird's signage.
Yes, sir?
On the awning, it's just an outline, excuse me, of their business name. Perhaps something like that could be done.
That's a
Not
thought.
on the awning.
That's a thought.
I don't know what the cost would be involved in doing that, but it would not block the view of those transom windows.
Right.
So I would hope it wouldn't.
So put it on the outside of the awning.
Either
Something like that.
On the outside or on top of the edge. But I wouldn't want to see it tall enough that it's blocking the view of the transom.
Right. Okay. That could work.
So I agree with what's said. I do like the change in the windows downstairs with that look much neater. The ones
Yeah,
proposed.
thank you. I'd like it too, so.
Yeah. But I think what everybody's trying to say is that it looks as though from what you're proposing, you're just tacking a sign up over. And so what George is saying is, could we incorporate in the awning, or could you modify the sign and change its size, et cetera, to make it more so that it's not as though it's covering
Right,
the original facade?
sure. We're willing to work for whatever.
Okay. I think in the meantime, though, we could go ahead and approve the vinyl signs for the windows. With the idea that you'll come back to us with a proposal for the signage above.
That'll be fine.
Is that doable, Donna?
With the understanding that no signage will cover the existing windows.
Right.
I think if we don't approve a sign up in that area,
With
that
the understanding
precludes-
that it would be a waste of time
Yeah.
for me if you came back with another sign that covered the windows.
Yeah.
is what I'm
Right.
saying.
Well, my original thought was, could we put something in the window, but our logo doesn't work with that, so.
Unless you reduce the size of the logo, which probably defeats the whole purpose of having it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that would be fine.
Okay, thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion?
I move
Who wants,
approval
gonna
of
make a
the,
creative motion?
I move approval of the new signage on the shop windows ground floor.
I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, the motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Moving right along, item G. Receive report, hold a discussion, and take action on the request to modify the facade at 419 West Crawford. Item number 2022-030H. Ms. Dow?
So this is the American Legion building, and it is, my favorite picture is the historic picture. I've got to get to that. That one, I think that is awesome. Yeah. That is a wonderful picture. That, their request is to maintain it, and, I think Rachel, did you do the boxes? Yes, she did a nice diagram of what their request is, trying to recap that and talk about staining the wood, and that's inside the pink boxes, and then the caps updated with the solar post caps, and then the blue boxes, the emblem sign and entrances to be stripped, sanded, and repainted, the changing seasons color, and then the green box to be repair and painted. And then this is another So emblem sign entrance painted changing seasons with black lettering so that the words are legible. And that's the solar lights. There's your colors and the seal, the stain. And then again, the historic photographs. So we can bring it back to that, and Colleen's here to speak to it.
In our packet, we have 6 colors shown. Are those just choices, or?
Let's,
3 are the primary and 3 are the accent. I'm sorry.
State your
My
name
name's-
and the address, please.
I'm Colleen Anderson, 1016 Thatcher Street, Denison 75020. So there are the 3 primary colors and then the 3 accent colors. And after seeing the primary colors lined up against each other, I'd actually like to change the request so that freshly baked is the primary color, and we use the garden walk as our accent color.
Okay. So these were multiple choices. You were not going to use all?
No, your application says to provide 3 colors. Your application says to provide 3 color options, so I did.
Thank you, sir. I've seen a lot of buildings around Denison, and primarily homes that have flagstone as the surface on the building. This has got to be the biggest one in town. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, they were very ambitious when they covered that one. So the west wall and the front is all covered with the flagstones.
I didn't read the whole document carefully. When was this building put up?
I believe it's 1938 is the foundation. The photo that's there at the end of the package is circa 1950.
Beneath the shutters, are the windows still in place?
No, ma'am, they've been bricked in. The windows were totally removed and bricked in.
That's pretty formal.
We've just been remodeling on the inside, and we took the wall off, and yeah, they're bricked in.
Okey-dokey.
Well, and I could actually, they're a very light sandy pink color. It was a local brick that was available here, so they look horrible against the flagstone facade. So at one point they got painted, and then at one point the building was painted red, white, and blue for the 100th centennial. That's what you see on the flagstones there. You can see the blue kind of still hanging on to some of them. They actually painted the building red, white, and blue for the Denison Centennial and then the Bicentennial.
Well, I appreciate your patriotism.
But we were thinking for the 150, we might try to go a little more original.
Thank you for that.
I
yeah.
also appreciate that painting the shutters is better than exposing the brick.
That brick, yes. And one of our members had made those shutters for us, so they kind of enclose the whole place, but they have become very weathered. So we want to sand them down, reseal them, and stain them, or stain them and reseal them. And the redwood kind of, we looked at several different stains, and we thought that the redwood kind of blends with the red of the rock that's there, that it wouldn't be too much of a contrast.
Okay, so you're choosing freshly baked and Virginia soil for the colors, is that correct?
Freshly baked and garden walk.
And garden walk.
So the freshly baked will go on all of the concrete work. Could you go back to that other picture? So there's a concrete arch above each of the windows, and then there's the main door frame. There's 2 columns on each side that will be painted in the freshly baked. All 3 of those little arches there, and then the the post home and then the Legion seal would all be painted in the freshly baked, and then we would use the the garden walk to bring out the detail on each one of those so that you can read them.
Pardon me for interrupting, but are those plaques already painted?
They were at one time, but the paint is flaking off and everything. You can see on the original photo from the 50s,
Yeah.
you can see that that relief was painted at that time.
Okay.
And the memorial home, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Pardon my interruption, but it would be nice if those could be restored, but I think after they've been painted, that's not really possible. And you were saying?
The memorial, that block there that has the memorial home on it, those letters are actually engraved into the stone. So we would fill that in to bring that out. And then the Legion logo above it is a relief. So the star and the American Legion pieces are a relief on that, so.
Be aware that if you paint those indented letters, that paint's going to fade over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's why I'm going with a brown instead of a black. I figure as it ages, we'll seal it so that hopefully we'll extend its life. But yeah, we want to, be able to, as it ages, let it not have to be repaired every year, but maybe every 5.
You thought through. Any more questions?
Colleen, this
Mm-hmm.
little archway here, what,
That is actually a door into the addition onto the post. In this photo, you can see it.
all right.
So there's a second door, and then there's a third window on the other side of that door. So we'll treat all of those the same way. And then that green box there on the end, several years ago, we came and we enclosed in that piece. We came to you guys and we enclosed in that piece. And that was the leftover piece from the driveway that used to be there, the gravel driveway and kind of outdoor space that they had. And so they put that up and then they never did anything with it. So of course the wood has become damaged and water damaged and that sort of thing. So what we want to do there is we want to repair that woodwork and then we'll paint it in the same freshly baked color because that'll blend better with the metal building, the metal extension that's to the east side there.
Very good. And that's not part of the original structure, so it's
No.
not going to impact the building overall. All right, thank you.
excellent, thank you.
Discussion, questions? There being none, I have a motion.
Motion to approve
Second,
the facade from 419, sorry.
second,
All those in favor?
aye, thank you.
Thank you. You guys have a good day.
I didn't hear an aye from everybody.
Aye.
All right.
This is such fun. Item H, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on the request to modify the facade at 306 East Main. Item number 2021-069H. Al?
This is the Travelers Hotel, and so we are very excited to see work begin on it. There's actually going to be 2 parts to this. So right now, they're just asking for the pieces to be demoed, and then they will come back with a complete package on their plans. Right now, the building department has a set of those plans that what they're proposing, because it takes longer to look those over, and they had to get them in their cycle. The applicant feels like it'll be hopefully within a month when they get approval from the Texas Historic Commission. And so they would like to wait to present that to you until everything's approved, so they'll know definitely the direction that they want to go on all the new, the restoration. So, go ahead.
They already demoed part of it, didn't they?
Yes, and there is a permit for that. So this is a step that is to happen before that permit. And so my request to you is to consider this and complete that paperwork. And then we'll be up to date. And then the next piece will be, will be reviewed by you prior to the work beginning.
So we want approval of demo of the non-original features to the building.
Correct. And I feel comfortable that as we discussed a while ago, it could be very costly if they did something that's not historically accurate to the building. So, I'm counting on that the features that have already been removed would be very costly to them if they did something. So they've been guided by a consultant working with the Texas Historic Commission.
Well, they'd get a slap on the wrist from us anyhow if they went ahead.
For
For going
the
ahead.
demo?
I asked-
Well, I don't think they knew, but they obviously know to come this time, so.
Jonathan knows better.
I've toured that building, and the parts that were added on were really awful. They were poorly constructed, they didn't even hook onto the building very well. It's a wonder they didn't demolish themselves.
So you can see that it's, most of the elements, if not all, are obvious on what was done. But as you can see here, the yellow box, there was kind of a vestibule type area created there, and that was removed. And then they are proposing to remove this section. You'll see some interior shots in a minute that show. You can also see that there is especially in the lower right picture, that there's some stonework there. I'm assuming that will be maintained, right? Yeah. And
Was there a staircase or?
There was kind of a porch there as well, right?
It was an outside entrance at one point, and that's what the intention is to be.
you can see from,
I mean,
yeah, you can see the interior from here, the same view. And so I tried to take that picture so you could see that it was definitely built on. And on the right-hand side is the exterior porch.
I guess I'm confused with what we're requesting here. First of all, I liked the write-up. It was enjoyable to read about General Cole and how the building started and originally being a residence, et cetera. But it may just be me, but I am confused what we're asking. Are we asking could you clarify?
Some of the pieces, we're asking for demolition of non-original portions of the building. Some of the pieces have been removed already, and some have not. And so
Including the front door.
Pardon? This, in the yellow box, was an exterior addition that has been removed. It's a wooden,
It's like a vestibule, isn't it?
yeah.
So we are not removing I'm still confused, and it's.
We're authorizing you to remove any non-original structures from the building.
Including the front door. The highlight, what's on the
Front
screen.
entrance, yes.
Gotcha. And then the other two pieces that were highlighted.
So there's several, and we
Yeah.
haven't
Okay.
got to them yet. So this section would be removed, and then this, we put it on there. It is, I don't know that it came before historic preservation when it was added. It was the previous owner. Nonetheless, it is a recent addition and will eventually be removed. And then this shows on the right-hand side the post that held up the section that you can see in the upper left that's inside the yellow box. That's what it looked like. And it was, the yellow and brown.
And so we're not proposing to take any of the original architecture, remove any of it. Okay, I'm just clarifying, George.
Understand.
Well, it's very important, I think, to all of us, including the applicant, that we don't take the original architecture. And they are being counseled by a consultant that's in the business of getting tax credits and preserving those tax credits as well as the building. And so
Absolutely.
that gives me comfort, but So this is just a recap of what we've discussed. So I would like for the applicant to come and see if he has anything additional to say, but they definitely will be back as soon as they receive THC approval.
Do you guys have any more questions for me, or?
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
commitment to that beautiful building.
Yep.
It's our pleasure. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're going to do a fine job with it, and that is a nice piece of history for Denison, and I'm glad to see it being restored. Thank you. Can
I will tell you, it's exciting news, but the windows were removed a few years back, and so stacked inside, they have been able to recapture many of those windows and will be using it. So again, I feel comforted by the steps that they're taking to, keep that a community treasure as we all do.
Okay, great. Thank you, Don.
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Jim.
Any questions or discussion? No?
A motion to approve 307 West Main, removal of, what are labels?
Non-original?
Non-original structures.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There being none, the motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is that the last one? Have we gotten to the end? I'm amazed.
You've been busy, Ms. Dow.
And congratulations on the finalist, becoming one of the
Yeah.
finalists. When will we know?
I have a couple of things to bring up. One, Donna, if it would be possible, when there's progress on some of the projects that we've approved in the past, that you bring a photo and show them to us. I'm not sure everybody notices when the work's being done in town. The other item is that I'm personally concerned about the care of some of the historic buildings in the town of Denison. And I'd like to see if there's some way we could take a look at some of these buildings and maybe get historic status for them, and perhaps expand the historic district in Denison. So it's going to take a lot of research, and I'd be willing to meet with you and anybody else you feel that would be pertinent to that, to try to get it accomplished. Two buildings that first came to mind to me were the county annex up on, I don't remember the name of the street.
Woodard.
Houston? Pardon?
Houston?
No, it's
Wood-
Houston and
Woodard.
Woodard, right. That is a maze design building, and there's elements in that building that if something happened to them, they'd never be replaced. And another one is the chamber building. That's historically significant. And there are a couple other down in the 400 block. The one Shelley Tate had an art gallery in, the green one, and there's one next door. Those are gems, and I'd love to see them preserved.
So, of course, they have to come before this group for anything to happen. I will get some information on the status and the levels, so
Okay.
we're all clear on what ties them, their obligations and approval levels, and what a different designation might mean for them. I think all the buildings you specifically mentioned are in the historic district, so they can't do something without coming before you, but
Right.
that also, think I know where you're going with this, and that is, our long-term vision to add maybe even different districts, so we can get information on that and begin that process.
A question from my board members. Have you received something called the Rawson Report? You both have it? Bob doesn't have it, and I just received it from Fanchon last week, so,
We did, the contribute, I thought so too, did it have to do with contributing, non-contributing?
Oh, yeah.
Is that the
Yeah.
Rawson? Yeah, you gave
Okay.
it to us.
so I thought during that conference that the gentleman, or the person doing the conference was referring to a previous evaluation of the buildings in Denison back in 2003.
So there was a
There was a
1980s
1983
one, and then there was a 2013,
Right,
and then 2017.
okay.
So we weren't comfortable with the 2013 version and had the 2017 version.
I've been reading over the 2017 Rawson Report, and it looks like the city has gained ground on significant buildings or conforming buildings, which is good.
So what that means, we need to send before the Texas Historic Commission and subsequently the National Park Service to get an update, because many of our buildings in the 1980s, when we got our designation, they weren't 50 years old now, then, and now they are. And so if we got an update, then we could claim even a more significant portion of our district as contributing.
There was also a surprise for me in that, and that the buildings down where the old Katy office building used to be, the one that Mark Nemey's using, and somebody's using it for repairing cars, and then it's the advertising building, those are all in the historic district. And so are the two tunnels that go underneath the railroads. So, I had no idea. I don't know if the owners of those buildings know about that.
Possibly not.
Probably not.
I know the owner of the Katy does. The owner of the Katy does. There's
Well,
one-
no, I'm talking about the old Katy office building that
Right.
fell down. That, unfortunately, that one's gone.
So that's why our minimum property standards program is so important. And, we want to keep ahead of that. No matter what we do, that minimum property standards is critical.
And, sorry, that was loud. Just to add on, if something goes to permits or the building department that is in the historic district, one of the buildings actually got a new roof recently. And if it goes to their department and they see that it does not have a permit from historic preservation, they let us know, and they let the building owner know to contact us. The 110 South Houston building, or Eagle Employer, they got a new roof and directed them to us to be able to. So
Okay.
the other departments do catch a lot of that.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
Right, we try to cross-check and make sure.
Okay, I just thought I'd throw that out. I think it's something we need to look at again, and I think there are some buildings that can be changed, we can change the status on them, and
Right.
some should be protected.
We were hoping to get a grant for that. I think the cycle is toward the end of the year when we would find out, and maybe hire Rawson or another company that does that to update the, the status.
Very good, thank you, Don. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Goodbye.